Hi, Canada, and welcome to another edition of POP TV, powered by POP TikR. So today, we're all about Support Local Canada, and we have two very powerful guests who are also driving this movement. So I'd like to introduce our first guest, Michael Wood from Ottawa. And I'll just introduce him in a few seconds here, but just a brief introduction. He's a professor at Algonquin College, a local business owner himself, and a support local advocate. So welcome, Mike. We're going to bring you up in just a few seconds. Hi,
Wonderful.
Mike. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great, great. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Again, we have two guests, so I will introduce our next guest. So it's Dylan Black. Many of you who live in the Ottawa area know him very well. He's a TV, radio host and broadcaster, an award-winning community leader, and also a Support Local Canada advocate. Mr. Dylan Black is with us, joining us in a few seconds. Here we go. Hi, Dylan. How are you?
Hey, I'm super. How are you doing?
Great. Thank you for joining us. So again, as we know, Canada has been dealing with tremendous economic, devastation. Canadians are anxious, worried about their jobs. We're all familiar with the Support Local movement. Now, looking at the position we're in right now as a country, the weather's getting colder. New restrictions are in place. What is happening at the ground level? And Michael, I'd like to talk to you first about this. What are you hearing from the businesses out there?
Sure. So it's an incredibly tough time. So thank you for having me on this evening to be able to discuss this. The country's kind of a funny situation because I've been meeting with different ministers and MPs and MPPs across Canada. And one of them made a point, one of the federal MPPs made a point saying it was trying to govern 10 individual countries. They all seem to have their own rules. So here in Ontario, right now, we're in a modified stage 2 shutdown, if you will. Restaurants are closed, gyms, and so on. And right now, restaurants and bars have tried to create a patio setting. And the problem with the patio setting is come November 1st, all of these businesses require a building permit for their tent. And right now, the tents aren't snow load rated. Come November 1st, a lot of people don't know, these tents are going to have to come down or they're going to face fines. And, it's a tough situation to be sitting outside in November with a tent with, half the walls up because that's the bylaw put forward by the province. And now the TSSA is turning around and saying that with propane heaters, there's a carbon monoxide risk. So, every time you turn the corner, there's something new. So everybody's going through a super tough time.
Yeah, it's really, really tough. I know, Dylan, you've been going out very active in the community. You hear from businesses on a day-to-day basis. So what are you hearing out there? Have you seen businesses actually closing because of this, most recently?
Well, first of all, yeah, thank you for having me as well. And the thing that I have noticed the most over the past, I'd say half year or so, is that there are so many small businesses. I didn't even realize that so many people were small business owners, entrepreneurs. I get a lot of emails, Facebook messages, Twitter messages of people that are just having trouble keeping their head above water at this point. As for closures, you hear about the closures. I don't want to say names per se when it comes to this interview, just because there are so many people who are struggling right now, and I don't want to favor anybody over anyone else, but it just seems like, as Mike says, the restrictions are making it so everything is so impossible feeling. And why would you go out and sit in a patio that could be freezing or could be poisonous or could be, so governments are making things difficult for sure by putting these restrictions in place. And of course, the being at stage 2 again doesn't help anything. So people are just struggling. It's an everyday grind for sure.
It really is. And, in the beginning, I was sort of, starting the movement like yourselves as a support local, was really to bring, like you said, Dylan, a lot of us didn't even realize how many local businesses there were, right? So it really started as more of a movement. Let's spotlight and let's really bring this to the attention of the mainstream. But looking into, I'm just looking at this article here, that it is sort of looking at, the cold weather and the trajectory of how that's going to impact business going forward. I would almost say, and I feel like it's no longer a support local business, it's really a save local business happening. What are we really facing, or looking at facing a national crisis here? I mean, coming into the winter months, Michael, what are you feeling? I mean, how are businesses, have they made any plans for the winter?
It's a great question. And I think, the one thing I think that Dylan and I both feel is that public health comes first. We understand that the public's health is extremely important. I think with winter coming, there's a bigger problem. It's getting darker earlier. People are struggling with their businesses, and I think that's going to lead to the next pandemic, which is going to be a mental health problem. Over 8 months, I am not embarrassed to say I probably had 3 or 4 moments of a little bit of insanity. Last night didn't help either. I was dealing with newfound life of having trolls on social media. Maybe Mr. Black, you dealt with this, and we can have a conversation at some other point. But I think that there's a mental health crisis coming with the winter, compounding all these other problems that people have right now. I think it's going to be a tough time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you really hit that point home. Mental health is going to be, a real central focal point coming to the next few months. So, lots of issues that I think Canadians are facing, both from a personal level, economic, jobs, right? There's so much at stake here. The other thing I really want to get into, again, just looking at Dylan, I mean, you work at the local community level. I mean, you've worked with a number of different radio stations, and radio stations are great. They really connect the community through music and local events. And Michael, being a local business owner with Ottawa Special Events yourself, I mean, you're dealing with the crisis, from day one as well. And with myself, being a startup, we were hit with the COVID-19 pandemic as well. I mean, sort of faced with, what do? We have a venture on the go. The pandemic comes in. When you look at the state of, big corporation, some of the support and the bailouts that they were getting, and you look at, whether it's a startup, whether it's a small business, community organizations like radio, do you feel that there is a real, how can I say, concern of the tipping point, leaning towards, how can I say, a really alarming or concerning environment for the world? Like, could technology, be a detriment? Could, big corporations sort of, stretching out the monopoly, become a detriment? Like, if all local businesses cease to exist, or a big portion of them cease to exist, will it cause a disruption, to the greater humanity, the greater, how can I say, ecosystem of economy? Do you have any thoughts on that, Michael?
Sure. It's going to have a huge impact on the local economy. Small business employs 8.3 million people in Canada. So small business is an industry that it's not looked at it that way. I saw a funny meme online yesterday because, I was a musician for 10 years and I teach the music industry at the college. And, a lot of people have been told along the way as a musician, if you can't make a go of something without government support, then maybe it's a hobby. So I look at things like, Air Canada and WestJet, they're about to be bailed out. You can't tell me that WestJet just decided yesterday they're going to start handing out refunds if they don't know there's a massive bailout coming from the federal government. And, small businesses are family owned a lot of the times. And it's where people learn as they grow, where youth learn as they grow. I employed 50 people at my shop. The average age was probably 27, thinking out loud, might even be younger. And so, a lot of these young people that came to work with us grew into the adults that they became through hands-on ownership. And I don't think you get that in a big box store. So we could go on about big box stores forever, but I just think that there's anyways, we'll leave it at that so I don't get myself into hot water.
And that's why I'm letting you answer most of these questions too, Mike.
Oh, thanks, Dylan.
So I was gonna say, any thoughts, Dylan? But if you wanna skip that, we could. But I mean, in terms of radio, right? I mean, it's again so well connected, to the community. I mean, even yourself, right? I mean, you have a passion, you have a skill. You've been doing this since 1999, right? So
Yeah.
if we get to a level, and I'm not just talking about big box stores, because big box stores still employ local jobs, right? So, but at the same time, when you look at AI technology and you have these avatars and you have, holograms that could potentially replace humans, what are people like us gonna do, and no matter what passion do you have, I mean, at what point does technology have an adverse effect, right?
Well, technology is definitely a fear, right? I mean, even in the radio business, I mean, a lot of it is automated, and shows are recorded here and there, and that kind of stuff happens. But it is entertainment. I mean, your favorite TV shows are recorded as well, and there's a lot of automation going on. So, but it's just technology. Technology can't be stopped, and there's lots of pros to it as well. But to go back to what you were saying before about certain businesses, losing. I mean, I also work at Yuck Yucks, as you know, and I don't see, like, I'm not trying to be negative, but if this continues the way it is, I can't see a business like that surviving, because it's based on people. There's no technology involved. It's just one-on-one comedians, food service, which there's no patio at Yuck Yucks. So how do you serve food if you're not allowed to, obviously? And the rent on Elgin Street, and you can only be bailed out so much for so long, right? And I know there's employees there as well that rely, comedians, entertainers that rely on these places being open. So we need to have a second look at that. I mean, are these closures as important as they say they are at this point? Is there actually evidence that leads to the fact that the virus is spread through eating indoors? Because as we go to the winter months, as Michael was saying, it's getting darker, it's getting colder, and people aren't going to be sitting out on patios in minus 40 degrees.
Yeah, no, very, very good points. I mean, something definitely to look at. And I just have an article up here. It's actually just little snippets of headlines. But just a few days ago, the U.S. Department of Justice filed a landmark lawsuit against Google, accusing the tech giant of illegally holding monopolies when it comes to search advertising. And again, the reason I'm just bringing this up is, again, at what point does big corporation or big business get to a point where they, how do you say, disrupt the ecosystem of small business to such a point where there isn't fair competition, right? So this is just one example of sort of, I think, we all saw this with other big companies too. It's again a very fine tipping point. That again is concern, is of concern when you look at other businesses that are trying to merge and innovation and having a fair competitive landscape. Any thoughts, Michael? I don't know, or Dylan, did you see this news story? Any thoughts on this?
Michael?
Sure. So I haven't seen this story in particular. I think that with everything, though, in this life, there's good and bad. And I think if we're going to focus on technology, not us as the three of us, but I think if we're going to continue to focus on technology, we need to focus on the technology that involves instant testing of people. Because Dylan's saying we're not going to go out to the patios. There's that part of it. But as human beings, we're social beings. We need to be around each other. We need our friends. We need our family. And to have people isolated in these so-called little bubbles, it's adding a lot of pressure to a lot of people that people still don't want to talk about. And so the technology needs to advance in a positive way too, or we're never going to have another hockey game at Canadian Tire Center. You're not going to be able to go see the Red Blacks when they come back, or whatever team you cheer for, or go to that Guns N' Roses concert you want to go and see, because until there's an instant test while people are walking in, the public health reaction to this is, stay away from everybody. But I think, as I say, there's a bigger mental health problem coming from just that.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, really good point. And actually, this is sort of, I think the contention that, the entrepreneurs in sort of my tribe are dealing with is, for example, so the issue, I guess, that this lawsuit is bringing up is that when people do a search on Google, it is generating results on companies that they have a stake in, right? Or might have some type of contract with. So I guess what they're saying is, are the searches, organic, really? Are the searches, again, leaning towards a more financial benefit for what they have stakes in? And when we talk about local business, and a lot of small business don't have the dollars, right? Or they might not have the connections, but their argument is, well, there's other search engines you can go to, but everyone, I mean, the majority of humans, or people that we know, use Google, right? So I guess that was sort of what people are really talking about over the last few days, is sort of this issue. And actually, that's a great segue into what I wanted to talk about next, because again, like you mentioned, we do have, I would say, I mean, I don't want to sound alarming, but it is I would say, a national crisis almost, in terms of, really decisions have to be made, actions need to be taken. I think this conversation needs to happen with as many Canadians as possible, so that we could have the local business sustained, right, as we head into the winter months. So I guess what I wanted to get into next is, Michael, how can Canadians help? How could, no matter where you are in the country, I know you're sort of more at the business front, whether it's businesses or Canadians, how could you support them, or how can they find support?
For sure. And there's businesses and there's charities as well too. Charitable donations are way down as well too for some of the organizations that people have supported over the year: cancer, heart, kidney, so on and so forth. So, a lot of people, they're using Uber Eats and these food delivery apps. Go to the restaurant, go to the takeout counter yourself. It's a huge cut these restaurants are taking at 30 points. And if you're going to hold a Christmas party this year, or a holiday party, I suppose, and you were going to do it somewhere, well, go and buy 25 dinners from that place for all of your staff. If you were going to go out for dinner, and spend the money that you were going to spend at these places. There was a business in Ottawa that just did that, because they were going to go out for dinner. Historically, they'd gone to this one place, and so they spent the money there on gift cards. And even if you don't buy the dinners, buy the gift cards, so then hand those out to your staff so that they can go and get dinner. But there's lots of creative ways to do this, but something has to be done, and it has to be done quickly.
Mhm.
Thanks. And Dylan, any suggestions or how you can help out?
I mean, I think I can expand on that just a little bit. And when it comes to social media, I mean, there's obviously good and bad. A lot of people, we failed to mention, a lot of people can't even afford to support local, meaning they're having trouble themselves paying the absolutely necessary bills, the hydro and water and rent and property taxes and all that kind of stuff as well. And, I mean, to a certain degree, I'm in that same boat. I mean, I lost my employment at Rogers TV for the meantime because the show was on hiatus, daytime, and with Yuck Yucks being closed and opened and closed. And, so I took a bit of a cut myself. I'm still very fortunate to have Boom 99.7. But I'm watching my dollars a bit more, right? So that causes a challenge for people. They want to support. So how can you support without having to actually open your wallet? Well, share stuff on your social media, to tell friends about it. If you are going to go somewhere, take a picture, put it up on social media. I can't tell you how many times throughout the course of our lives, I mean, I can probably speak for the both of you, we've gone someplace, ate someplace, we never put it up on social media in the past, but now it's like, okay, last night I was at Louis Pizzeria in Vanier. Well, I took a photo of the building and slapped it up on social media and put their website, right, and or their phone number, and that goes a long way. If we have strong networks, even if you have 100 friends on Facebook, that's 100 people that could be could view your post, right? And perhaps they can assist in some ways. So those are just small ways that people can, obviously, if they can't afford to go out all the time and support, well, the times they do go out, mention it somewhere and let people know about it.
Dude, I completely agree with you. So, Cami, I got to tell you something. This guy sitting next to me here virtually, is a
Huh.
rock star, and and
I
he
agree.
and he like what he created with Boom and the shout out Saturdays at the radio station where people can call in and give a shout out. One, like he's absolutely right. Share photos of where you've been. Dylan and I were just photographed together, which doesn't happen very often. We tries not to get the photo with me, but whatever. So we were at Chances Are. We got the photo done, and then we posted it. Write a review of a business that you've been to. You don't have to spend money to support. There's lots of graphics out there. You can like just cite how do I support a small business. You'll see all kinds of different ideas. But I'm telling you honestly, like this city that we live in owes a great deal of gratitude to Dylan for his shout out Saturdays and all of his social media reach. And if somebody does want a boost, with Auto Special Events, we've got 10,000 followers too. Like on that one Twitter channel, between Dylan and I, we've got about probably 100,000 followers, and we can help boost it. But the guy sitting next to me here is the real star.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm just going to fire right back and say, look at the things that Mike has done in the community, and constantly putting up videos, trying to contact MPPs and MPs, and on the city level and the premier, and it's incredible. It seems like you're like an Energizer bunny, right? And I know both of you we both speak privately, and we all both have our difficulties in life, but when it comes to helping people, it's just you have to make a difference with the time you have here, right? And I know that you're doing that, and I'm doing my best. And Kamal, you are doing that as well with POP TV.
Thank you.
You're doing an amazing job, right? I see all the things that you're posting all the time, and it's incredible. So I just think everybody has it in them, right? No matter how big or small your network, just try to feel good about helping somebody.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And thank you. And again, I think that's what it's really all about, right? I mean, whatever you can do to help, again, if you can afford gift cards, or if you can't, I mean, even social media, like you said, it goes a long way. And I actually really like the point of the Google reviews, or, Facebook reviews, or whatever reviews, because we have a little bit extra time, with COVID. It's not like we're as busy as before. So take the 5-10 minutes and make a big difference for one of your neighborhood shops, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Totally.
and one of the notes too, and funny that you were talking about technology and trying to help. And so as a startup, that's sort of the contribution that I'm trying to make is we're launching a support local app, where again we're trying to take this whole notion of spotlighting local business to the next level, where Canadians will be able to download this app for free and be able to see the businesses based on location that are just footsteps away, and you can just make the whole support local movement, really at the in the palm of your hands, just to really kind of have a tactile tool to do that. So
That's awesome. Good
yeah,
for you.
thank you. And anyways, but that's it. I just really, again, appreciate your time, Michael, Dylan. Again, the Support Local Canada movement, I know it's something we're all passionate about. And Canada, keep rocking the support businesses need you, and take care of yourself as well. I know mental health is something that is really important, and you do have to take care of yourself, especially during times like this. So, Michael, any last words for everybody watching today?
Sure. I think the most important thing is don't give up. I think we've all come to that point over time where we throw our arms in the air and we say it's not worth it, and I, fold. But I do strongly believe. I'm not really a religious guy, but I do believe that everything happens for a reason, and whatever that reason is, and the reason we keep moving forward, it will, whether it's a lesson or whatever the case is, there's something to learn. So just always be learning, keep your eyes open, and just don't give up.
Mm-hmm.
Great. And Dylan, any words on your behalf?
I couldn't agree more about the never giving up, right? If you think about your problems 5 years ago, if you think about the people who are giving you problems 5 years ago, chances are none of that even exists anymore in your world, right? So even though this is extreme times, obviously, unprecedented, as they say, chances are, hopefully, in months from now, it'll all be forgotten, and you'll still be living your dream, pushing forward. And you might take a hit right now, but down the road it could be the best time of your life, right? So just keep going.
Oh, when this pandemic's over, it's going to be the best time of my life. I can promise you that. We're going to have a good time, Mr. Dillon.
We're gonna have some good times for sure with all this
Ottawa-
facial.
I was going to say Ottawa Special Events will probably be putting on a party of the century, isn't it?
Oh man, it's going to be crazy.
And I will MC that party, Mike Wood,
There you go.
for sure.
I'll do some moves on the dance floor. How about that?
Look forward to it.
So there you go, Canada. Thank you so much for supporting local business, and we'll see you next week on POP TV. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you.